English learners, welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we have a very special lesson because we're going to be focusing a little bit more on grammar.
That's right. We're going to look today at the difference between past simple and past progressive, or sometimes called past continuous.
Exactly. So we are going to take a look at these two structures, which are a little bit confusing at times, and we're going to be practicing today. But before we get started, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
Well, this dialogue is all about telling a story in the past, and we're going to hear two words in the dialogue that we need to understand the meaning of. So, the first one, ages.
Ages.
I haven't seen you in ages.
Okay, so if I tell you I haven't seen you in ages.
Basically, you haven't seen me in a really long time.
Okay, so it's a way of exaggerating a little bit.
Yes. And this word ages we can use in many different ways, like, I've been studying English for ages.
Or, for example, I can say, I haven't been to the dentist in ages.
Oh, well, guess you better go, huh?
Right, so ages, a very long time.
Yes. Now, another phrase, to run into somebody.
So, to run into somebody.
I ran into Matt.
Okay, so if you ran into Matt the other day.
You met him unexpectedly.
Okay, so you didn't plan to meet, you didn't have a date.
Right.
You just casually on the street met.
Exactly.
Okay, so I ran into your friend the other day.
Okay, so two good words. We're going to hear both of these in the dialogue. So why don't we get started with dialogue first time?
Mike, what's going on, man? Long time no see.
Hey, Pat. Yeah, I haven't seen you in ages. How's it going?
Things are going great. It's funny running into you like this. Small world, huh? You know, just last week I ran into Matt as well.
Yeah? How's he doing?
He's doing well. We went out for a couple of beers and the funniest thing happened.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we were talking and catching up on what we've been doing. Talking about work and family, when all of a sudden, Matt saw a mouse run under the chair and he completely lost it. He started freaking out and screaming.
Really?
Yeah, and the funniest thing was, then he jumped onto his chair and started shrieking like a girl. You should have been there. Everyone was staring and laughing. It was hilarious.
All right, very good. So a funny story, and as we saw, a lot of stuff in the past, right?
That's right. And we're going to look at that in a moment. But first, we've got lots of exciting language to describe when somebody gets really emotional.
Okay, so why don't we start now with language takeaway?
Language takeaway.
We have four words here. Now, in the dialogue, the guy in the story lost it.
So he saw a mouse and he completely lost it.
To lose it.
Okay, so when you lose it. What are you losing?
You're losing control of yourself and your emotion.
Okay, so you lose your temper maybe.
Yep.
So when I lose it, do I just get angry?
Angry or upset or even sad. But it's usually a negative feeling.
Okay, so it's not a good thing to lose it.
No. So, for example, when I showed my boss the sales figures, he completely lost it.
Okay, very good. So that's what lose it means. And now our second word is very similar but has a little bit of a difference.
That's right. He started freaking out.
Okay, so to freak out.
To freak out.
Now, freak out is very similar to lose it, right?
Yeah, but why don't we hear an example now of somebody freaking out?
It's just, no, okay? Forget it, all right? Just forget it. I don't even want to, I just want to forget it. I just want to forget it. I don't know. Okay, calm down. Woo! Calm down. I gotta calm down. I'm so happy. I can't even express it. I'm like, have I even finished one sentence? I'm like, woo! Give me a high five, baby.
All right, so we heard this person freaking out, and basically it could be losing control or losing your temper, but also in a positive way.
Right. So maybe you're really excited about something that's going to happen, so you're freaking out.
Okay, maybe you're very nervous or you're very excited. All right, and now moving on to our third word, stare.
To stare.
People started to stare.
Staring.
Okay, now when you stare at someone or at something,
You look at and focus at something for a really long time.
okay, so you are looking at it,
Yeah.
focusing on it.
Yeah, longer than usual.
All right, maybe when we were small, our parents taught us that it's not nice to stare at
Yeah.
other people.
Exactly.
All right, so to stare.
And our final word, when Matt saw the mouse, he started shrieking.
All right, so to shriek.
Shriek.
Shriek. Very similar to that movie Shrek.
Oh, yeah, it sounds quite similar.
All right, but it's different. What does shriek mean?
Well, why don't we listen to an example?
Oh my god! Holy chingada!
Okay, so I think shrieking is to shout in a very high-pitched voice.
Exactly, that's to shriek. Okay, so we saw 4 really great words in language takeaway, and why don't we listen now to the dialogue for a second time, a little bit slower, and then we'll come back and look at the differences between simple past and past progressive.
Mike, what's going on, man? Long time no see.
Hey, Pat. Yeah, I haven't seen you in ages. How's it going?
Things are going great. It's funny running into you like this. Small world, eh? You know, just last week I ran into Matt as well.
Yeah? How's he doing?
He's doing well. We went out for a couple of beers and the funniest thing happened.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we were talking and catching up on what we've been doing, talking about work and family, when all of a sudden, Matt saw a mouse run under his chair and he completely lost it. He started freaking out and screaming.
Really?
Yeah, and the funniest thing was, then he jumped on his chair and started shrieking like a girl. You should have been there. Everyone was staring and laughing. It was hilarious.
Okay, so there was a lot of different uses of past tense here in this dialogue, wasn't there?
Yeah, since he was telling a story that happened, he used the past a lot.
Well, let's now, as promised, look at past simple and past progressive in grammar breakdown.
Grammar breakdown.
Okay, Marco, before we start our discussion, why don't we hear one example of past simple and one example of past progressive?
You know, just last week I ran into Matt as well. Well, we were talking and catching up on what we've been doing.
Okay, so we heard that just last week I ran into Matt. So we discussed what run into means.
Yep, to meet someone by surprise.
All right. And now this structure is the simple past, right?
Yep.
Now the second example that we heard was we were talking. Hilarious. Long time no see.
Go crazy. Lose control of yourself.
Go nuts. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. I've been waiting here for ages. It's been ages since I saw you. I lived in France ages ago. Lose it. When I told my boss that I would be late, he totally lost it. Lose it. If you do that one more time, I'm going to lose it. Lose it. I found out that the flight was canceled and I started crying. I completely lost it. Freak out. Oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Justin Timberlake. I'm totally freaking out. Freak out. Why did you freak out when I told you I'd be late for dinner? Freak out. Don't freak out. We can solve this problem in 5 minutes. Run into. I have not seen Sally for 5 years. Then I ran into her at the park. Run into. I'm sure we'll run into each other next week. Run into. If you run into Tom, don't tell him that you know me. Stare. I know that dog has 3 legs, but stop staring at him. Stare. The painting is so beautiful. I could stare at it for hours. Stare. He stared into my eyes and then told me he loves me.
This week we start a 2-part podcast about volunteering. So what do we mean by that, Jackie?
Well, a volunteer is a person who does something, especially helping other people, willingly and without being paid to do it.
Yes, I suppose there are 2 main kinds, aren't there? One where you volunteer to do something in your spare time, but continue to live and work as normal.
Yeah. But for this week's podcast on English.com, we're talking about the other kind, where you give up your job, if you have one, and your home and go and live elsewhere.
Yes, well, an obvious question here is, if you leave your job, how can you afford to live without being paid?
Yeah, good question. But I suppose really it's without financial gain. I mean, you can't live without money, so it's often payments in kind. Okay, let's look at some examples. Richard, you have one.
Yes, I do. One very popular organisation is WOOF.
Do they look after dogs?
No, it stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. It's basically people learning about sustainable organic agriculture while working on farms. The website says, embark on an adventure and discover unique places where growing food from hands-on farming is part of an inspiring lifestyle.
So weeding and turning the compost too, no doubt. And what do volunteers get for doing that?
Well, of course, they get accommodation and meals are provided, but no money. And, of course, they get valuable experience.
Okay, so no money at all?
No money. It is actually very popular, especially with young people and students. It started in the UK with just local farms, but now you can work in over 130 different countries.
Something fun to do over the summer, perhaps?
Yes. Now, Jackie, you were a volunteer for a long time.
Yeah, 5 years.
Wow.
3 years in Malawi with VSO, that's Voluntary Service Overseas, and then 2 years in Angola with UNV, the United Nations Volunteers.
Right, so that was for a long time. We're talking about years. You must have received payment then.
Yeah. Both organisations pay a basic allowance. I got paid in local currency in Malawi and dollars by the UN. They both paid for my social security contributions back in the UK too. So that's for my UK pension.
Right, okay. So what did you do in these places then?
I trained as a graphic designer, as you know, Richard, in the past. So I was a graphic designer for both. In Malawi, I worked for the Ministry of Education, helping local staff produce books used in schools.
You mean school books?
Yeah, for the students and the teachers. And then in Angola, I worked for UNICEF, again working on publications, how to build and maintain a water pump, for example.
Right, okay. So what made you do it then?
Well, two main reasons. First, of course, the possibility of helping others, passing on skills so people can help themselves.
So it was very rewarding then?
Yeah, definitely. And secondly, the opportunity to travel and meet people you would never meet otherwise, to experience completely different cultures. It was quite challenging at times, being in very unfamiliar situations.
And I'm sure there were some downsides as well.
Yeah, now my parents never understood why I gave up a good salary job to leave for Africa. And then when I came back, I was unemployed for over 6 months. And I had to retrain.
So quite difficult then. But do you have any regrets?
No, not at all. Life is more interesting when there are challenges to overcome. Or so I tell myself.
I quite agree. As fans of detective programs, we are used to detectives going into shops and asking to see the CCTV footage.
Yeah, or using street cameras to track a car as it winds through the city.
Yes, but CCTV cameras aren't just in public places, of course. Private places such as car parks, front gardens, driveways, etc. All of these can be covered by cameras.
Yeah, so for this week's podcast on English.com, we ask, is it a good thing?
And let's also ask, what are they for?
Yeah, well, I suppose, Richard, the main reason is security, of course, right? They're meant to deter crime and help authorities catch criminals.
Yes, you say that, but how effective are they as a deterrent, really?
Well, that's an interesting question. I couldn't actually find any real statistics, but obviously the companies selling the cameras, they say they do.
Of course.
There are some studies in the US and the UK which suggest around 50 to 60% of certain crimes are reduced,
Okay.
right? So criminals are far less likely to burgle a home or steal a car if there are cameras installed.
Okay, fair enough. But hold on, wasn't there a big case recently where a burglar stole loads of stuff? He was recorded on camera and yet he got away.
Yeah. December last year, a guy stole £10 million worth of jewellery from a London mansion, and it was all caught on CCTV. There were 8 people in the home at the time. Now, the footage was able to tell the police the height of the man, his approximate age and his build. But yeah, you're right, he is still at large.
Yes, and also what about shoplifting? There's been a huge rise in people stealing from supermarkets, for example.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So although the supermarkets have cameras, so these actions are filmed and people are identified, the police don't come and arrest anyone. Either the amount that they steal is not big enough, or they're too busy for them to bother about it.
Right, they're not bothered by stealing a couple of packets of biscuits then, I suppose.
No, exactly.
So they help in certain situations, but there's another side to this. Britain is bursting with CCTV cameras, and the average UK citizen is caught on camera 70 times a day.
Wow, really?
Yes. Now, there are surveillance cameras on most businesses and streets, at train stations, bus stops, coffee shops.
Do you know how many, Richard?
Well, the UK has actually the 3rd highest number of them in the world after China and the US.
Gosh.
So most of these are